Ghosts, demons, and a killer script. Here's why everyone that loves a good story should play Unavowed. Every so often you'll see an article proclaiming that the classic adventure game is dead. And even if we don't play classic adventures that often, it's easy to feel sad about their decline. Many of us cut our teeth on the likes of Monkey Island, Broken Sword, and those classic LucasArts point-and-click games. This then is the first episode in what I hope will become a series of videos looking at why adventure games are still very much alive. And contrary to them dying out, that there are actually more narratively driven games available to us than ever before. In today's video, we'll be looking at Unavowed, a new point-and-click adventure from Dave Gilbert, the guy behind games like the Shivah, the Blackwell series, and Emerald City Confidential. And if you like it, I'll try and make it a regular thing here at Logitech G, so please do let me know what you think. And if you're into narrative or adventure games, and you have any recommendations, please do pop them in the comments below, and I'll try and feature them in a future video. So, Unavowed then, exactly what is it? Unavowed is a supernatural detective game set in modern-day New York. The Unavowed are a secret supernatural police force protecting mundanes, essentially normal people, from otherworldly threats like ghosts, demons, and dragons. So it's not exactly the same, but if you like things like The X-Files, Dirk Gently's holistic detective agency, Angel, or the detective elements of something like Hellboy, for example, there's a strong chance you'll like Unavowed as well. The game begins with your exorcism, and this is a moment that's really elegantly handled, because it turns out your character was possessed and has been on a year-long killing spree. The only problem with this is that you have no memory of any of this. Remember! Casting a demon out is a great chance for you to define who your character is, and this is where Unavowed is so different from so many other adventure games. Not only can you pick your gender, but it's also a chance to look at multiple origin stories, so you can choose whether you are an actor, a bartender, a cop, and they all affect the game, and they all have their own specific intros.
Hey, long time no see.
It feels very RPG light, which is something we'll come back to a little bit later on. You have an element of choice here that means that you feel like you own your character far more than you do in most normal adventure games. It also adds a degree of replayability because I want to go back and see how things would have worked out if I was a cop or a bartender instead of an actor.
I am envious. I smell trash. Rotting trash.
So once the demon is cast out, you join the Unavowed and meet your new team, Fire Mage Eli and Jinn Mandana. And immediately, I wanted to know more about both of them, as well as more about what caused my character to end up getting possessed. And I think this is something that adventure games do better than most TV shows. Adventure games can unveil story in a way that would seem really clumsy for a TV show. So you see pictures of Beckett with his wife, and you want to know his family history, or you see a picture of him with Mandana and intonate what you will from that photo. It's a really elegant way of handling exposition, and the cool thing is that Unavowed answers many of these questions with some really detailed character dialogue. The TV analogy also carries through to the way that you solve mysteries. Each one is self-contained with a different supernatural threat at its heart. And the connecting thread here is that your character and the terrible things they did when they were possessed join everything together. In that respect, Unavowed feels like great value, like a TV-length show where you control the direction and the outcome. The pacing is brilliantly done. It lets the mystery drip through slowly and then throws the big stuff at you at opportune moments. And when those big moments come, they really do pack a satisfying emotional punch. Between missions, you'll head back to the Unavowed HQ, which works as a hub and as a place to catch up with your teammates. And this is something about the game that I especially loved. The characters are great, the voice acting is on point, the script is funny, and the setting is just brilliant. But these characters are more than just set dressing. Using them in different ways is crucial for solving the game's puzzles. Now, I won't share specifics here because I don't want to spoil anything, but each of them has skills that will change how you progress through each case. Fire Mage Eli, for example, can fire read, allowing him to visualize anything that's previously been burnt. Now, that doesn't sound that useful, but there are plenty of applications in the game. And the fact that you can eventually choose the construction of your team means you'll pick your favourites and swap members about in a very BioWare way.
I don't know about that.
All of the characters in Unavowed feel like people. You can ask them advice if you get stuck, and I found myself wanting to catch up with them at the end of every mission, again in a very BioWare kind of way. It also helps that the script is so sharp. Eli in particular has many of the best lines, and he bounces off the more deadpan Mandana perfectly. The humour also makes the more ridiculous moments of the game somehow more believable.
Humor. Good. You will need that. Listen closely to me.
Throughout Unavowed, your choices are important too. You decide how cases are solved, and the decisions are often hard because they're emotional rather than mentally challenging. This, for me, is the heart of the modern adventure game. It forces you into difficult choices that are relatable because the characters are so well written. And the fact that you go back to Unavowed HQ to pick over all your decisions only makes everything feel more impactful. That degree of choice extends to your backstory as well. As an actor, I was able to lie my way into places that will be out of bounds for other characters, much to the confusion and amazement of my teammates.
That was an impressive performance.
I feel like I should applaud, or maybe shout bravo.
It's another element that fleshes out all of your choices, and it made me want to go back and play it through again with a different origin story. The game looks gorgeous too. It's permanently raining, but it never feels depressing, and it's brought to life by a score that fits the game perfectly. There's a palpable sense of place in each new area, and it looks good in a way that only pixelated games can. Like a great big punch to the heart, reminding you of all the games that you used to love. It's even more impressive considering the whole game was built on the wobbly old adventure game creator engine. It doesn't have lens flare or destructible environments or subsurface scattering, and some of the animation might feel a bit stilted, but it's all the more evocative because of it. And finally, we can't talk about an adventure game without talking about puzzles, and for the most part, these really landed for me. Many of them rely on the skill of your teammates rather than the classic point-and-click mechanic of trying everything until something works. There's a sense of satisfaction that comes with thinking about a problem and working out the best way to solve it. I was rarely stumped for any great length of time, but the puzzles don't seem obvious either.
That appears to have unlocked the door.
And Unavowed is huge. Just at the point when you think things will begin to wrap up, it expands and takes you in a whole new direction with a surprisingly dense second act. So just to reiterate, you really are getting your money's worth. Unavowed then feels like it modernises the classic point-and-click without losing the things that made them stand apart. The RPG elements and character choices might seem small, but they're enough to set this apart from other adventures. Throw in a fantastic setting, brilliantly fleshed out characters, smart episodic storytelling, and a compelling central mystery, and Unavowed is everything I want from a modern adventure game. Others have pointed out that if it was released back in the 1990s, it will be held up as an all-time classic. As it is, it's a game that probably won't be for everyone, but if you care about story in your games and want something gently spooky to fill your evenings as the nights begin to draw in, I cannot recommend Unavowed enough. And I also want to know what you think. What paths did you choose? Who were your favourite characters? And is this enough to tempt you to try a genre that previously may have passed you by? Please do let me know in the comments, hit that like button if you throw it all away to join a supernatural detective agency, and subscribe to Logitech G for more shows like this one.